Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And we have the results. We have Trump taking the elections. And I have to admit, I was sure that Musk and Trump are going to play a role in the Pluto ingress to Aquarius. And I actually believed it was going to be from outside, like the formal elections. My bet was because we still did not have like a woman president for United States, and that would be like so culminating Pluto in Capricorn. But Trump won, and I think, other than the fact that I literally got the fact that Trump will win with literally his energy coming as the young self that predicted he will be president, and I didn't get the omen still. so, so hey, this like I got the data. I just did not interpret it correctly. Okay, I received the news. I did not interpret them correctly. Um, and I just really thought I'm receiving Trump like because of the elections. And I was looking at the Trump mask, so you can watch these episodes. That means that Trump is with Musk ushering us to the Pluto ingress into Aquarius, which is beyond fascinating. Trump's ascendant. Oh, I find that very interesting for the United States because we know what Pluto into Aquarius means for any like royal figure, leader, and so on and so forth. Um, that being said, Trump's ascendant is 29 degrees Leo, which makes it a president that can withstand at least most of the 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius, which is unusual. He's also an eclipse child. But that is something that I kind of, oh,
the Malay.
kind of like I can see what that does for United States. And that's very fascinating. Okay, that can give us a president that stays put through what was predicted to be the French Revolution for the entire 20 years. It doesn't mean that there won't be all the things that are going to be. Trump also has Uranus in Gemini. And I think that does make him more compatible than any younger candidate that doesn't have Uranus in Gemini, because he simply has the timestamp for Uranus in Gemini. Like if it's not, I think Biden, I don't know, I don't remember Uranus for Biden, but it's like if it's not Biden, then that's likely to be Trump. And it's nothing to do with the competence of young leaders, not at all. It's just like that's a person that carry the timestamp for Uranus at the time that is having Uranus return, so the time of the Civil War. And this is a person which carries an ascendant that is really at the last degree of Leo, which means Pluto will not oppose his ascendant directly until around 20 years from now. So you say, but surely that he's supposed to only serve 4 years and the rules and that. I don't think that's what will happen. I don't think that's what will happen. And I think the fact that Pluto is only entering his 7th at the time of the French Revolution can put him as a sort of the one that stays put when the whole world is going crazy. And he's also an eclipse person, so that is very interesting. I knew that he would play a role. I'll go back to my channeling, okay, when I was driving with my mom, and we were driving kind of like it's a desert area, and suddenly I see it's kind of like the head of Trump rises. It's kind of like the head of Trump rises, and it's kind of like the shining sun, rises from kind of like 12 o'clock, okay? Like in front of me. And immediately I remember that he has Uranus in Gemini, and my natal Uranus is in Sagittarius. Okay, so it's kind of opposite perspectives to the revolution. And I just began to think about, Uranus in the Jupiterian is kind of like building the forests, building the trees, and Uranus in Gemini is highly technological. So you think about like trees and cameras. It's kind of like it's kind of like seeing the conjoining, especially now when we have Mercury in Jupiter sign and Jupiter in Mercury sign on the axis of 2030. So that was really, really fascinating for me. And then when I would do the Trump chart, I said I gotta do the chart, and it began kind of like with the Trump mask. I saw young Trump at the time where he predicted that he will be president of United States. So I guess this was really telling me like, hey, can't you see what's going on? But I so believe that this is going to be an Aquarius thing, that although we're literally a couple of days, okay, 19 November, Pluto ingresses for good into Aquarius. So I thought like, okay, maybe these elections that will be Kamala, but definitely will play a role. And I wasn't expecting actually that he would be elected. That can mean on a very large scale, when we take into account that Trump will be one of the opposing forces in the civil war, that can give relative stability to United States at this time, because at least one of the opposing forces has the timestamp of Uranus in Gemini. He knows this energy. He's done this energy in his life, and he has what it takes to participate in that energy. Okay, and I'm saying that on a very large scale. I'm speaking as an astrologer, not so much as politics, definitely not politician, but not so much as from the perspective of politics, because you can have a lot of competent people, and then there is the windows of time, and kind of like what time opens up for you, okay? And so that's given someone that can actually be one of the forces in the civil war, that can stay put throughout tremendous turbulence that's going to be from within and from outside as well for the United States. I think is about like what the way this ends. He knows, like I don't know, but he knows, and I think that that can be very much the ushering of United States through the Pluto square and through the Pluto return into the kind of like the French Revolution times, and into the Uranus return. Okay, I do think that if we talk about the Civil War, okay, that was about slavery, and later gave basis for feminism. I don't know which side he will play in that. I think there can be something radical, like it's very likely that some of the people of my generation, which is the Uranus Sagittarius, will be the other side, like the opponent side, and those people are also going to very likely eventually, after transformations and adaptations, change the course of the face of the United States afterwards. If I take it back to the person who abolished slavery, and I think was that the same person that wrote the Declaration of Independence for the United States? I remember when I listened to Austin Coppock talks about this, Jefferson, right? He was Piscean, he was Jupiterian, and I think such forces are arising again for United States, and they have to do with abolishing of slavery. That's simply put, okay? With a more sense of freedom, the next phase, okay? That's what it means. And I think Trump is aware of that. And then there is the question, because with Uranus opposing Uranus, I have the timestamp of Uranus in 12 degrees Sag, and I remember when I was very young, in my teens, we heard about Trump as a businessman, and I remember him for the prenuptial, and he brings his Uranus into my 4th house natally, and that's what I remembered from him. And the fact that, people were criticizing him for losing a lot of money, and I was like, well, isn't that what's business about? Like, you lose a lot of money and you make a lot of money. But I didn't know anything, not about the cults, not about anything. Like, really none of that. And the last time he was elected, if I think about that bringing, a Uranus into my 4th house, it was also quite surprising to everyone. I actually did predict, it was not me, it was actually Charisma on Command that predicted that Trump will win, and then I was just agreeing with him, and that was correct. But that was from media level. At that time, Uranus was together with Aries, and I remember I moved to private sector apartment. So something was getting privatized about, for me that was the 4th house, but it's something like markets being privatized, and the polar opposite, which is the complementary polar opposite, is the flexibility in terms of religion. It's a radical religious revolution, but it's meant to abolish slavery. And we're going to be having someone with both Piscean and Jupiterian timestamp standing in front of Trump on a civil war level. Now, Uranus ingresses this year. Uranus ingresses this year. Okay? So I'm very excited about this time for United States, because it's a time of tremendous turmoil, but also tremendous liberation. It's a time where we will see even more privatization attempts, at least, and at the same time, people will, like, the question of slavery will be at least used for the agenda and will win the race. Like, the very simply put, the generation of the Uranus Sag, those the Piscean of them, will take the civil war, I believe, I predict. However, the privatization, just like if you think about the foundation of the United States, okay, so going out of the British Mandate was very essential for the foundation of the United States. So that doesn't mean that what the Uranu Geminis are doing is not necessary even, and necessary to the point that the Uranus Sag is building upon it in such a way that, yes, very likely those who will be in favor of even further abolishing slavery, okay, even further abolishing slavery, particularly, I think the connection point is both Gemini and Jupiter are ruling of children. And I think, in general, I think a lot of people are already like dismissing the entire election thing because it's like, hey, blue pill, red pill, it's all these globalists, it's elites, these reptiles or whatnot. But if we actually tend to abolishing of satanic ritual abuse and ritual abuse from both indigenous and not indigenous societies, and not just like child labor, because child labor has been across the board for the people who are outside of the cult, but within the cults, because that's the time where the people are like being persecuted. That's the thing, because I think the person who will stand up to Trump within the United States, they will be from within the cult. But if any one of them, okay, even as a thing like they did with slavery, as a thing is like to play on that for the agenda, and then they have to follow through, at least to various degrees. The topic for, and especially now with Sedna in Gemini, Sedna in Gemini will further accentuate the need to tend to the free woman, I mean the woman that hasn't married, and the children to have childhood. But it's not just child labor, it's within the elite cults, because that's the missing spot of the Uranus Sag. Okay, that's the missing spot of the Uranus Sag. If Uranus Sag manage to tend to that, they take the civil war. If Trump managed to tend to that, he can take the civil war. Because that's opposing, that's still changing for the Senate of the United States by merit of opposition. So, and this is beyond going like child labor, women rights. This is within the cults, delving into the hermaphrodites, especially around the trine. And I've been saying that's a window of opportunity that we haven't had in 12 millennia. More than 12 millennia, because, hey, when was the last time that Pluto, that we didn't even know about, trined Sedna when it ingressed to Gemini? Sedna was 12 millennia ago in Gemini. That's something, and I think that if we don't know that, and if we don't get the Inuit, if it's the person that's going to take the card of abolishing the situation for the Inuit, from the Inuit, of having the incest and the highest suicide rates in the world, which causes depopulation. Okay, the Mormon cult caused depopulation, not just the generation, sperm count depletion and so on, but it causes depopulation. So actually willing consent regulates population, and it regulates it so much so that you don't need to interfere in that. And the infanticide. So that would be both a revival for the Inuit, but the person that manages to tend to that successfully from within the cult and from within the indigenous societies, they will take the war. They will take the war. It's beyond the issue of child labor. It's from within. Because a lot of what's playing out in the United States right now is the fact that we somewhat abolished slavery. We just transmitted it to like corporations and jails, and homeless people that work. But that's also because we haven't really addressed it from the indigenous, and it's not about stolen land. Okay, the tribes that were left by the time that the Americans invaded to America, they were already the colonialists. So ask any genuine indigenous American, they will tell you, because I learned it from them. Okay? You ask any person, they will tell you, because I learned it from them. But what causes invasion, the way we treat those who are sick, who are the children, the solitary person, man or woman. And this is why Trump will have to face a lot from Mark Rutte. Because Mark Rutte stood for the solitary person to live alone. Sedna. Okay? That's something that's going to be very challenging on a worldly scale. We're going global to compete. And Geert Wilders is tending to infanticide and child brides and genitalia mutilation in Islam. Okay, so these are like three people that are very, very interesting to keep on following. And people are going to have to raise their standards, because Wilders has been taking the populist communication from Trump and doing very good. Okay? Rutte has been standing for the solitary man's right to live alone. Okay? And reminding people that NATO will not vouch for the people who are going to do war crimes. All the rapists are not going to vouch for them. You gotta listen, okay? I still gotta watch today. Today's NATO episode. So those things are very interesting. But the Sedna component, the people that are going to do the astrology without Sedna, I think are 12 millennia steps behind, just doing the same astrology and thinking, well, it's Civil War plus World War II. How do we combine that? So, of course, women's rights, and Rutte is on the money. Is on the money on that. Women had what? Ability to have bank account after Second World War. So he's saying outright, we're not going to vouch for all these rapist men anymore. Not going to vouch for y'all. Okay? And he's on the money on that. He knows very well with all the currencies on Beta per se. He knows that. Okay? Where he was grown, where he was raised is one thing. It doesn't mean the person doesn't have intelligence. And I wonder what the Gilden will be like, because in terms of the chart, so that's something I'll keeping track of. And when it comes to for Trump, is very important, because Beta per se is like that's his midheaven. Okay, so. But the Sedna story, because Sedna requires respect on levels never before seen. If Trump gets that card, that's the thing that I think can turn it over from like we are separating from Trump at like towards the end of the 20 years, or he is going to be one of the people that are not losing the mandate of the heaven. Oh, that's why I got him rising like China, because that's the thing. Okay, for those of you who just watched this episode, in China, there is the way they view politics is that if a tyrant is murdered, is because he lost mandate of the heaven. Now, you cannot avoid, if you watch my channel, to remember that Trump's sun is 22 degrees Gemini. Okay? And it doesn't have to be losing mandate of the heaven. Okay, 22 degree. If we are evolving, 22 degree can be many things. Okay? It doesn't have to be losing mandate of the heaven. But I did see Trump rising like China, and then he has to remember he probably knows, okay, the mandate of the heaven thingy. And the Sedna story more than anything. Yes, also women's rights, and absolutely. But, the children to have childhood and not to have genital mutilation and not to have a child labor, but within the cult, from within the cult. And I said it when I looked at the Trump mask. Okay? I know people are going to laugh at me. But hey, didn't Trump laugh at Musk in the beginning? He did. He laughed at Musk. He laughed him off. Now they're buddies. But they laughed each other off. Okay? I said what I said. Because this Sedna factor has not been here in 12 millennia. And the Sedna story is about the solitary person, man and woman. The free person. That which was not going to be wed to anyone. That which wants to have new level of dignity in intimate relationships, especially domestic relationships, that will not marry a child, that will run off to another tribe. They will look for it all over the world to be free. And if in the land of the free, since the Inuit, we're going to tend to that, that's something that, whatever Musk wants to do, or to get to those galaxies, to get to here, to get to that, without having to compromise. People talk about the EV, but Musk has solar energy battery. Like Musk cars, Tesla could be fully solar powered. easy. Okay? The question is like, will they let him? Or does he have to be profitable? Because the mask himself, he lived very simple life. He's a Cancer. Okay? You look at the stars, and I'm sorry he thinks of boobs. That's pretty much it. It's very simple life. So it's not as like the greedy person that people is not unable to enjoy luxury, but it's not dependent on it either. So when it comes to doing something for humanity, it's not something that doesn't excite him or that doesn't that is like against what his values or his wishes. I believe. I don't know. So that is something we want to think about in terms of energy. And you know what I noticed with Uranus in Taurus is the more we ground ourselves, the higher we go. Okay, I know a woman who literally built a house from the soil, and now she's traveling the world. Okay, that's an inspiration for me. That's an inspiration for me. But that is something we need to keep in mind. And I think the knowledge exists for working with the element. Just have to not invert it all the time. So. Whoever gets the Sedna card is the person that will definitely take the civil war, because the person that got the slavery card got the civil war, okay, and got the Declaration of Independence at the same time. So that was, yeah, we're having another run, okay, we're having another run, and clearly it's going to be about, corporation, industrialized, this, that. And with the Uranus to Uranus, there is, the transformation is mutual, okay? With the opposition, the transformation is mutual, and both sides are liberated in some way, shape, or form. So that is something we have to keep in mind. I think because Trump is such an eclipse child, he probably knows if he's going to lose mandate of the heaven or not, and we, the world, are just going to have to respond. But yeah, that was very funny to see him rising like China. He was rising like China, like the rising sun, okay, rising like China, and immediately that you think about what, the mandate of the heaven. Like you're rising like China, and he's rising up to China indeed, where you think about the mandate of the heaven. And just yesterday I was saying the sky that punishes the land loses mandate of the heaven, because sky does not punish the land. I addressed this, okay? The winter is good for the trees. It's just that we need to build the technology to warm ourselves up. But if in our homes the sky, the man, the young, punishes the wife, it's depletion of yin. It's taking entire China down. That's how China was susceptible to invasion of the West. Simply put. But it's also true to the United States. Okay? It's true to the Inuit as much as it's true to the United States, as much as it's true to WEF, as much as it's true to China, as much as it's true to everyone. So the sky that punishes the land loses mandate of the heaven, be it Mao Zedong or we the people. And that's something that we the people need to remember. The one that's on the money, other than Geert Wilders, is going to bring us Hilden very likely, is Mark Rutte. And you can tell me, but surely he was giving ideas to do this, giving ideas to do that. He's on the money on the level that he's not going to support or vouch for war criminals. And he's saying this upright. Okay, what was his notice? You see, he usually talks to this person, talk to that person. Then he sets and reminds us the Security Council decision. Okay, I think it was 1325. UN Security Council, around the role of women in peacemaking and and to avoid war crimes. That's very, very diplomatically saying, guys, I'm not going to vouch for you when you're going to do all these mass rapes. Like, you do whatever the fuck you wanna, you're not gonna get vouched for. You're gonna get 2 generations dead like the Second World War. Okay? You're gonna get a hug in the Haag. Okay? So that is something that people need to get. And that's the most, and he talks about the rights of children as well in war, and he knows very well, because just like all of our, they grew up somewhere, and that somewhere is the real Holocaust. Okay, not because Holocaust was fake. It was not fake, but because that's the Holocaust that happens in between Holocausts. So that's something. Okay, and ascendant with Uranus, the guy's an astrologer for sure, so he knows what Sedna is doing, and he's not dumb. And anybody that wants to take the civil war will have to take notes, and anybody that wants to respond to Trump, if there would need to be a response, would have to take notes. And it's not about, you can't go like women rights, child labor. No, it's not the same cycle. It's not the same cycle with Pluto trine in Sedna. It's just not the same cycle. With Uranus going back with Sedna, Uranus going on Sedna, trining Pluto in Aquarius, no. If we don't integrate the Sedna, we haven't had a conversation. And actually Trump integrated Sedna when he said that the indigenous society in the United States are illegal immigrants, okay? That's him doing Hioka. How would we respond? Okay, how would we respond? Who is legal, who is illegal on the land? The role of law, okay? Judiciary revolution. Uranus in Gemini is also judiciary revolution, trade revolution. Okay? But will the indigenous society just talk about colonialism when they were the colonialists before anybody invaded? Or will we tend it from the Inuit to infanticide, to the free man, the free woman, to willing consent, gender roles? Okay, Uranus is still on Beta per se until it goes Gemini. To the fact that enough of having highest suicide rate in the world because of incest, because the complementary to that is the elite cults, those that you call reptilians. Okay, because they are also inbred, and they also torture their two spirits. That you see people going like this, those things, that the two spirits being born into torture. Mirror, juxtaposition. That's what it is. If we tended to it from that, now we changed something for the land of the free, and from the balance, both in the West and the in the land of the sun going down, in the moonland, literally the moonland. Okay, sun in Cancer for United States, and in the land of the rising sun, which is China. You have to remember that the sky that punishes the land loses mandate of the heaven, be it Mao Zedong or we the people. So congratulations to Mr. Donald Trump for ushering us into the Pluto ingress into Aquarius. And I'll see you for next episode. Bye-bye.